Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am once again Forza18, and joining me this week is Joshua Jones,
Hello.
and coming to us live from a pub is Rob.
Hi, and it's not a pub, by the way.
I knew I'd get that wrong.
Well, whatever's going on, he's going to be on mute for quite a lot of today because, as we were discovering before the podcast was starting, it's rather loud where he is, and probably not very good for childish ears either. So, whatever's going on, it's going to be mainly me and Forza for the podcast today, and we have a couple of good series to talk about, a couple to review, and a couple to preview. So,
Yes, and before we go any further, we shall start with only racing that happened over the weekend, which means I can reintroduce Rob into this conversation.
Sup, yeah, I'm currently in a flat at the moment. We've got some bumping tunes banging out at the moment.
Good.
Yes.
Hopefully you're in a bit of a quieter place so we don't get interrupted here. Anyway,
Yes,
what are you going to speak about?
Yes, I was going to speak about the ABB FIA Formula E Championship.
You're learning very quickly.
Thank you very much.
The
I
good
do
old
try.
ABB at Formula E Championship. Yeah.
Yep, they were racing at the only fully permanent circuit on the calendar at the weekend, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City.
The oval portion, yeah.
Yes, the shortened oval portion
Oval
of
with
the
games in it, yeah.
circuit. Yes, and it was a decent race. There was some drama actually in free practice too, involving one Mr. Alex Lynn.
That would be?
Felix Rosenqvist was going slowly, and Lynn tried to go round the outside of him through turn 2 and got on the dirt on the outside off the racing line and hit the wall pretty hard.
Oh, this was in practice. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I
it was
got you.
that chassis.
No, he didn't do any chassis damage, no gearbox damage. He was okay.
Okay,
Yeah, the strength of...
Okay. As I was going to say, I thought there was a bit of chassis damage to that because, of course, he was late. Was very nearly late going out into qualifying there. So
No, he just got in the other car for qualifying.
yeah, the other car, of course. They've got two cars.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
might well become an issue next year, which we'll get onto soon.
Yes. But yeah, qualifying went well. It was a good session for Antonio Felix da Costa and Oliver Turvey. Both got top 5s. Felix Rosenqvist was on the pole for
Rob, can you go somewhere quieter?
You gonna stay out here the whole time?
Is there a toilet you can use or something like that?
No.
a toilet.
No, Josh.
You know, like a toilet room. You
Josh,
Americans
this is
will call it
something
the bathroom.
this is something you're going to learn when you're at university.
Okay, yes. I won't do any podcasts from university, but anyway.
Will you two get back on track, please?
Yes.
Okay.
In qualifying, it was pole for Rosenqvist, and Alex Lynn got demoted because he had a grid penalty, as did Sam Bird. Lucas Degrassi had a nightmare of a session running in Group 1, and they got the worst of the track conditions, so he qualified way down the order, and he had a 10-place grid penalty for an inverter change. So, as a result of having a grid penalty, he also got a pit stop penalty as well, which meant he was held in the garage before being allowed to jump out of the car, I believe. So, in the race,
Right.
more on that in a sec, because when the race started, Felix Rosenqvist got a pretty good start. Daniel Abt also made up a place as well in the other at Scheffler, Audi Sport at Scheffler, rather, entry. And it was going quite well for the young Swede until he stopped on track with battery-related gremlins, and
Ooh.
yeah, he actually stopped 3 times in the opening stint, and when he'd done his car swap, Second car was working okay, but as a result of what happened with the first car, because he pitted a bit early, he didn't actually have enough energy, I believe, to actually finish the race. So,
I'm afraid it all became a big test session for the driver who was, of course, running, I believe, second in the championship, and actually is still running second in the championship.
he was after his points for getting pole position.
We got 3 bonus points, so he still got.
Yeah, and but yeah, it was a good race in general. It was a very clean race actually compared to last year.
Yes,
and
it was.
Lucas de Grassi actually came in 9th in the end.
Yeah, so his first points of the season, Degrassi.
And he got fastest lap.
Yeah, so his first points of the season, he moves himself
He's
ahead of
fastest
Luca
lap.
Filippi, meaning that Degrassi is no longer last of the drivers who have driven the full season, which would have been embarrassing for him.
Yes, but that was more to do with the car than his abilities as a driver.
Of course.
Yes. The next round is in 2 weeks' time in Punta del Este in Uruguay.
Turning. Time in what? A year?
Yes, it was not on this calendar for season 3, but was for season 1 and season 2.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the Punta del Este course. I seem to remember it was quite a good one, actually.
It was. I'd say out of all the tracks Formula E was raced on, I'd say that's one of the gnarliest circuits.
Yeah. Proper circuit.
I still wanted to return to Long Beach. That was good.
Yeah, well, the crowds there just weren't very well. Yeah. What?
Cheers, Connor.
I love you, right? Yeah, so that was pretty much it from the Formula E. Oh yeah, I should say Daniel Abt has kept the win this time.
Oh, I was
Yes,
about to ask, did he get to keep it this time?
Yes, he did get to keep it.
Right. Okay.
Second was Oliver Turvey for Neo, and third was Sebastian Buemi in the Renault Edams car with Jean-Eric Verne for Techeetah.
No,
Speaking of Techeetah,
Yes.
they seem likely to be switching DS Performance's factory team for next.
Yes.
While Virgin Racing is set to be Audi's customer.
Now, I'm going to bring up an interesting point here, and that's that Sebastian Buemi has just delivered his 3rd podium in a row. The cars ahead of him, looking at the results, have been a lot more inconsistent recently, with our championship leader, Jean-Eric Verne, having finished 5th, then 1st, then 5th again. So I'd say, if I can make a very bold prediction...
I thought it was 4th he finished...
No, 5th this time. So I'm going to say...
I thought it was 4th at Mexico City.
No, 5th. So I'm going to make a bold prediction and say that Sebastian Buemi is going to gain places over the next couple of races, and by the end of this season, he will be in the top 2.
I was going to say, I'm just going to actually check the Formula E results now.
Yeah, it was Abt first, Turvey second, Buemi third, and then it was PK, and then Verne.
No, I think it was Verne, then
Has
PK, because Buemi overtook Verne for 3rd.
I think PK then got Verne. So
I don't think PK did.
I'm looking at the results now. PK is 4th, Verne is 5th.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, yes, he did.
By half a second.
Glad that confusion is solved now.
Then it was Mitch Evans, Antonio Felix da Costa, Ede Mortara, Lucas, and Alex Lynn rounding out the top 10.
Excellent. And sticking with Formula E news, there was some from Geneva.
Oui, monsieur.
Quite a lot, actually, from Geneva.
Yeah, I think we'll cover
the
some
other bits we'll cover later, but just the FE.
Yes, at 6:45 this morning UK time, while I was still getting ready to get the train down to go to uni, they took the wraps off in person. The new car for Season 5. 250 kilowatts in qualifying trim, 200 kilowatts in race trim, about 280 kph top speed.
Yeah,
And
that'll do nicely. And it looks like a Porsche 917 at the rear.
Now, I'm going to be sort of controversial from what you said and say that I don't like how it looks. Now, I think it's trying to be far too precocious. I know it has a 280 kph top speed, but the thing is, it's still going to be a Formula E car. It's still going to handle like a mallet, and the thing is, it all looks very unnecessary. It all looks very Hot Wheels. You know the kind of thing. It's like a toy, and I don't like how Formula E is trying to take itself so seriously, and yet it keeps creating cars that can't be seen even as a normal single-seater racing car. I think it would gather a lot more attention and it would be taken a lot more seriously if it actually looked like a Formula 1 car.
It's meant to be different to F1 anyway, so if they make it look futuristic and quite frankly cool as heck, in my opinion, then...
But it doesn't. It just looks like my idea of a toy 10 years ago.
I think that might be...
It looks like something Batman would drive, and
Exactly.
that's cool.
It also makes the halo look quite interesting.
It actually makes...
Yes, I admit it does.
Really,
But I suppose it's more of a package thing than anything else.
yes, because it's an FIA mandate to have the halo on the car.
But
Well,
because
no, but I mean, it looks more integrated into the car than it is on the...
Yeah,
Also-
it looks like it's actually been designed with it in mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
because of the circuits that FIA Formula E, ABB Formula E races at now, I mean, that extra 30 mile per hour top speed, that's not going to do anything. It's still going to be possibly maybe 1 or 2 seconds quicker around a lap, and I think it just looks like a toy now.
It's not going to be 2 or 3 seconds a lap quicker than Monaco, but that's using a different circuit for Monaco next year.
Well,
That's
they're
true.
using the entire
They're using-
circuit of... Yeah.
The entire Formula 1 circuit.
And I like that. I like that. I didn't like
Actually
the
give
shorter
you
version.
like-for-like comparisons of how quickly they could go around an actual track
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
for the first time.
It's
You
going to
can
be not.
compare it to Formula 1, Formula 2, things like that. Yeah, it'll be a lot slower, but we knew that.
Well, it'll be slower, but the question is, we could actually do a direct comparison of how much slower it is compared to the
But that's-
brand new one, actually.
That's not the important part of a Formula E car. It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be fast. But I think that it applies too much to a younger audience. And yes, I know it's supposed to apply to a younger audience. To
Says
bring
the
them up-
young person.
to bring
Says
them
the
up
youngest
with,
person
yeah,
here.
to bring them up with an electric car, of course. But it's the older people who don't accept electric cars at the moment.
Well, yeah, but you're not supposed to get them on board. That's not the point.
I know, but it still looks like a toy in my opinion.
Yeah, well, speaking on that front, there were 2 other things of 5 car that were revealed, which was the Audi e-tron FE05.
Looks awesome, that livery on that car.
Yes. Q for certain someone put up.
I have changed it. You'll see that on the podcast in a minute. So you can already see
Alrighty.
a picture of the generic Season 5 car, and there is
Ta-da!
the Audi. We've just got a bit of a stream delay, but yeah, there's the Audi, with a lot of unnecessary lines on it, which makes it look less like a Hot Wheels car and more like a Transformer, which still I don't like. I'm just being the grumpy old guy at the minute.
Yeah, you're being the grumpy old person, considering that's supposed to be my position.
Well, it's
I thought that
mine
was
now.
supposed to be my position, yeah.
Oh, man. But no, I do like the Audi.
I'm turning 16
Wheel
in a week and a half, so
covers.
I'm a big boy now.
Oh, wow.
You're
Wow.
still a minor, Josh. You're still technically classed as a minor.
Yes, well, the Audi A-F05 is that livery, and also from Geneva was the big announcement and build-up for the Nissan program to enter Season 5 of Formula E, and, well,
Yeah.
that livery isn't very inspired, is it?
It's, you know what that needs on it?
Some thought?
No, just some calsonic blue. Because calsonic blue fixes anything on a Nissan, as we all know.
Well,
And
that's...
have known since the early 1990s, let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't know about that livery. It doesn't very exciting. They made so much a build up over it. It's just black and grey.
Although as I jokingly said to you, I bet they take number 23
Yeah, probably
because Nissan.
23 and 24.
Nissan Neon, I think. I might be getting that wrong. So
Possibly. Don't ask me though, because I don't know.
I will actually agree with what the official GTHub channel is saying now, and I'll actually say that the Nissan livery is nicer than the Audi.
I disagree. It's too simple. It's boring.
I like this being simplified. I mean, I'm completely the other way around when it's actually. It's interesting because on the IndyCar I said it was too simple, but this I think looks just right. I like the black on the sides, the silver in the middle, the red around the outside. It looks just like. I mean, of course, I don't like the car, but the actual livery. That's how I look at it.
My question about the Nissan though is whether or not it has their new. I wonder if this Nissan has a new audio sound to it that they put in their new electric cars. The weird, they called Kanto, I think that's what they called it. It's like this weird engine note thing that they have. But yeah, that's a side note. That'd be interesting if they put that into their Formula E motor.
Yeah, it would be quite interesting actually, but then again I think it would add weight.
It doesn't add weight, it's part of the electric programming, but yeah, anyway. Unless you're saying electricity weighs something.
Although the key thing with the Season 5 car is no more car swaps, so...
Well, yes, that's a key bit as to why there's probably going to be more cars and you only need one.
Yep.
Now, are they going to remove pit stops entirely? Or is it still going to be kind of a mandatory?
There's no need for a driver's swap.
I thought so, but it just seems like removing strategy from single-seater racing is like making it a junior category.
Wow. Oh wait, hang on. 2 is 3. No, 2 is knee, 3 is son, 4 equals on. So I think you're right. Okay.
Yes, all that time spent reading speedhunters.com has paid off.
Well, Kazuo was telling me that information, so I guess you were correct.
Gracias, Kazuo.
Strange. But yeah, that information is done, and for now we will say goodbye to Rob for a bit.
Feed us in.
While we move on to the F1 testing news from the past.
Yes, so F1 testing has been very interesting so far because of the weather. Now that's the one thing I noticed about it. Day 1 had some wet bits in it. Day 2, I think, was the day where it was pretty much completely iced over. On that day, only one driver even bothered to set a lap, and that was Fernando Alonso, who was almost a minute off the pace because the track was basically covered in a sheet of ice, and there was no way the tyres were going to get up to temperature. It was ridiculous. So that day was pretty much down the drain. Day 3 was... pretty much the same. It was very... I think I've got them the wrong way around, actually. Alonso
Day 1 was Daniel Ricciardo and Aston Martin Red Bull Racing. Fastest, with weather interrupting that.
Yeah, it was day 3 when only Alonso set a lap. Day 2 was pretty chilly as well. The lap times couldn't get anywhere near. Day 4 was more like it, but still... They really haven't had enough kind of proper dry running yet, and that will be interesting when we get to the first few rounds, and they haven't really done much dry running in the cars.
Yeah, other than day 4, but
you know.
The first day was Daniel Ricciardo going fast, 21.79, with 105 laps. The most interesting moment of that day happened to, well, be the prerequisite for how McLaren's test seemed to go for the entirety of Fernando Alonso fell off in the final corner after his right rear wheel came off 6 laps into a run.
Those things happen. It's just...
And that was day 1.
yeah. Not the best way to start. Apparently he was actually going purple on his time, so he was going to be
he would have been fastest
the quickest of the day.
before his wheel fell off.
But yeah, good luck trying to set fastest lap with only 3 wheels on the car. So those things happen though. They're not really that worrying. The kind of like car chassis issues. They can be repaired pretty quickly. All it takes is to diagnose the problem and then make the part stronger. But the thing that's worrying me about McLaren is that they're having pretty much the same problems as they did last year during testing, including today, despite switching engine. Of course, we all thought it was the Honda, but it looks as if it's just that McLaren and engines these days don't really mix. I mean, Forza was bringing up an interesting point to me before this podcast started, that McLaren is the kind of team that asks the car or the engine to be built around the car rather than the other way around. That's what they did with Honda. They trialled the Honda for a year, and then basically gave up on it. They sort of admitted that it was going to be rubbish. Didn't even allow Honda to improve really, because they kept sort of making Honda develop an engine separate to the car. And of course that didn't work, because when they went to shove the engine and the car together, it fell apart. And that's why that's why Toro Rosso is making use of its Honda engine so far in testing. And that's why McLaren can't get used to the Renault either, possibly. We don't know
For some reason,
on behind the scenes, but yeah.
Well, but for some reason, McLaren for years were fixated on the stupid size 0 concept, their bodywork pack, which means that even when they were with Mercedes, they had cooling issues because there wasn't enough cooling going to the engine, because everything was just so shrink wrapped into a package. So with the Honda engine, the Honda engine was too big, and the bodywork was just tight. There wasn't enough airflow to cool the engine. And then when Honda said, "Okay, we have this package, we want to use it," McLaren said no, because it's too big and it ruins our bodywork. So they had to do a workaround for 1 and 2. And then last year they finally actually got the package they wanted to run in 1, but they couldn't. So they were actually starting over effectively from scratch, because the first 2 seasons didn't translate to the package they wanted to have for the first season. But it was all based on McLaren not working with them. So I do think that McLaren has more to blame, has to take more of the responsibility, the reason why they couldn't work with Honda well, because they didn't seem to be a really willing partner to have a hand-in-hand working relationship from the start.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Of course, we all thought McLaren Honda, this worked well in the 80s, and it's going to work again now, and then were completely perplexed when it didn't work. But then again, as I said, hiccups happen. This is pre-season testing. I want to wait until the actual race, the first race, before judging how it's going to work. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and I'm sure that McLaren and Renault are both going to be pushing their hardest to get the car and the engine running properly for Australia. And also, if you don't have the power deficit that Honda had in the Renault, it could still be that so long as the Renault holds up, the Toro Rosso could be at the back and the McLaren could be at the front, as we expected. It's mainly about reliability, because you can't score if you don't finish. But
yeah,
when they do finish, it could still be that the McLaren is the best car. Who knows?
Well,
It's hard to tell at this stage.
They keep saying, McLaren have been for years saying that they have a good chassis, that the engine crap, and it doesn't work. Well, we're seeing now that might be true. However, engine issues are still rearing their head. This is what testing. Because it seems that once again, the problem that they have, cooling it, because they don't have their package just quite right. Because they were in the garage all of day 4 and day 2, with cooling issues, because there were burn marks on the back of the car at one, and that clearly came from the engine. So I don't know. We will just have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating team these days, McLaren. They seem to be getting a bit Ferrari-ish about everything, don't they? Sort of. That's how I can imagine a Ferrari. That Ferrari would be if they didn't make their own engines. Kind of, you have to do everything our way, and if not, we're going to make you look awful. You see? That's... Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's Ron Dennis.
What was that? You cut out briefly.
Did I really?
I think so, yeah. I heard the name Ron Dennis, but that was it in the sentence.
Oh, that's all I was saying. Ron Dennis.
Oh, okay.
When he was at the helm of McLaren, it was either you do it his way or no way at all.
Well, I tell you what, Ron Dennis was good, though. He was a proper...
But now he's gone. Everyone seems fine.
It does seem to be a struggling team, whatever the case, even though they are very good at making a chassis. It reminds me of the Prost Peugeot. I heard a story, I think it was on this podcast actually, which I'll bring up again, and that was that Prost was almost purposefully making the Peugeot look bad because they didn't want to admit that basically their car was rubbish. And then Peugeot released their official power output and various stats about the engine just to prove that that wasn't the case. And I think that's probably what's happening here with Toro Rosso.
Very well could be, actually. But Toro Rosso was never a bad car. Bad managed old engines, exactly shine. But they are pretty stout if they're allowed to get it from under Red Bull's thumb.
Yeah.
Because this engine, they had year-old Ferraris last year. They didn't have new engines last year.
No, they've never had the best engines, have they?
Yeah, they've been behind whatever customers have. So that was with the actual factory F behind them, with Red Bull money and a chassis, good driver. They could be someone to look up. I generally think that they'll do well, but we'll have to, because they seem pretty reliable.
Well, we'll have to see about that. I'm really.
There's also week 2 of tests. More on that next.
And by the way, the Toro Rosso team were. Actually, I'm looking at completely the wrong thing. It's registered as a Toro Rosso power plant, and I believe that was actually a Renault. It was the Sauber that was using the year-old Ferrari engine. I think Toro Rosso was using a Renault engine last year. We discussed this before on the podcast, I'm sure we did.
Yes, you're right. I got that confused in my mind. Yeah, right. Yeah. I knew someone had the year-old engine, but...
Yeah,
no, the Toro Rosso had a year-old Ferrari engine before they went back to Renault. That's what...
Oh, there you go. So you're
That's
right.
what I was... Yeah.
Me too. I keep writing 2017 as the date. I think we all do that.
Yeah, well, you should be over that by now, man.
Nope.
February. I mean, March. Yeah, I'm getting it wrong now. Christ. That's going so well.
You're trying to teach me about the date.
It was going so well.
It was going so well.
Yeah.
Also, I'm very glad to see, I was saying this earlier as well, very glad to see that Sergei Sorokin is on the pace at last. Yes, it was never going to be representative, seeing as this is pre-season testing, but I was expecting him to be quicker in the first few days of testing, and even though no one was quick because of the conditions, he was still quite a considerable way off Lance Stroll or Robert Kubica's pace. And ironically, Kubica was actually the fastest of the 3 drivers. But today he put in a competitive lap time for once, and it appears that he's not. It's not just that he can't do it. I still don't think he's going to do well this year. He's not ready for Formula One, and I don't think he ever would be. Interestingly, I was saying this as well. I think that if he'd come into Formula One in 2017, he wouldn't have done that badly. But now that he's had a year off as well, he wasn't even that impressive in Formula 2. I think that Sorokin's going to be a big disappointment this year, and I don't know why they went for him over Kubica, apart from money, but still, we'll see. Too early to judge a driver, I suppose.
That would so.
So that was F1 testing. More of it is going on this week, but that was the majority of it. What else have we got today?
You wanted to do 24 hours of Silverstone.
Yes, I did. Because
so we can preview that now.
Yeah. Okay, so the 24 Hours of Silverstone this year, of course, still run by Creventic as it has been for the past couple of years, but this year they're doing it very, very differently, and I think it's utter madness. I mean, just look at this. How they're going to do it is there's going to be a 12-hour race and a 24-hour race on the same weekend. The 12-hour race, of course, containing the prototypes and the GTs. The 24-hour race containing the TCs. And I thought, yeah, that seems pretty like a pretty good idea. It seems pretty standard. It was originally going to be that the 12-hour would be first, then that would finish on the Saturday morning, and the 24-hour would start Saturday afternoon. How they're going to do it now is they're going to start the 12-hour race on the Friday as planned. They're going to do the first 5 hours of it then as planned. They're going to have a break overnight as planned. But what they're going to do then is they're going to resume the 12 hours on the next day, on the Saturday, at the same time as they start the 24s. So it's not even that they're going to have multiple classes on the same track like we normally see. It's that they're going to have 2 different races going on, which is just utter madness. And look at the speed differential of some of the cars. I mean, in the 12-hour race, which of course is happening at the same time and on the same track as the 24-hour race, you have cars like Ginetta P2s. You've got Ginetta G57 P2s, which are these big, great, ferocious beasts of a car, proper Le Mans prototypes. And they're going to be going round on the same track as BMW Cup 1s and a John Cooper Works Mini. And I just think I've never seen anything like that before, and for good reason. The reason we don't have cars like that going around is because it's dangerous. And I remember hearing an interview with one of the Creventic organisers at the start of this year, in fact, at the Dubai 24 Hours, talking about how they're going to be taking the prototypes to more events. And he said, and I remember this clearly, he said, you will never see the prototypes and the TCs on track at the same time. It would just be too dangerous. The pace difference is too much. Well, they've gone back on their word immediately. And to be honest, I can't wait for it. It's going to be mad, but it's going to be so interesting to see how it pans out.
Well, there's only 4 prototypes?
There are only 4 prototypes, but that's still they're going to be pushing. They're not going to be sitting back just because there's 4 of them. We have 2 P2 cars, so both from Simpson Motorsport. We've got 2 Ginetta G57 P2s. This is in the 12-hour race, interestingly. And we also have 2 cars in the CM1 class, one run by Tim Gray Motorsport, which is a Norma M20FC, and then we have another Norma M20FC run by Kraft Racing. Another very interesting thing about how these races are going to be run is that, of course, after the first 7 hours of the 24-hour race, they're going to have to pull the 12-hour racers off the track because their race would have finished at that point. So basically, they're going to show the checkered flag, but only half the cars will exit the track. And I don't know how that's going to work because, of course, normally you see cars kind of tootling back to the pits after the race, or cars kind of under fueling and running out of fuel on the in-lap. Obviously, they can't do it. They can't do it like that now because there is going to still be a race going on. What I think they might do is call the code 60 for the end of the 12-hour race, just to get the 12-hour cars off the track safely, and then they're going to continue the 24-hour race. But it's still such an interesting concept that we're not just going to have a multi-class race. We're going to have multiple races going on at the same time, both starting and finishing at different times. And honestly, I don't see why they're doing it. It's madness. Why not just do the 12-hour race first, then the 24-hour race?
Because the grid's pitifully small, that's why.
But it's not. Still, you've got 20 cars for each race. That's enough for an endurance race. Yes,
you can't have 20 cars in a 24-hour race. That is way too small of a field.
It's smaller than last year, and it would be a big disappointment. But still, it's just it's enough. And don't mix as I said, don't mix LMP2 cars with BMW Cup
They're,
cars
they're
and a
not
Mini Cooper.
actually LMP2 cars.
But they
They're
are.
LMP light. Genettas actually aren't LMP.
They're what?
I said the Genettas aren't actually LMP2 cars.
Why is that?
They're not. They're not actually LMP cars. They're quicker than the LMP.
Well, they're quicker than the LMP2 cars. Though. Why are they not homologated?
Yeah, the Genetta isn't a homologated LMP2 car because it's quick and have a proper.
Okay, well, I thought they were homologated, but obviously.
Nope.
Well, okay, if
They're not allowed
still.
to build an LMP2 car.
Why is that?
You can. There's
because
only
they're a
4
manufacturer.
LMP2 constructors. Yes.
Ah, of course. I didn't think of that. Yeah. So, well, even if it isn't a homologated LMP2 car, it's roughly LMP2 pace, if not quicker. And if so, we're still going to have LMP2 cars sort of on track at the same times as a little Mini Cooper, and I just don't see the sense in that. I mean, it's just, as I keep saying, madness.
Should be fun. Tune in
Should
for
be,
a bit,
but anyway.
if I remember. Yeah.
And I'm going to be at the track, of course, watching it all unfold, and probably watching.
Hopefully you don't freeze to death either.
Yeah. Heights of 7 degrees Celsius, they say. But anyway, we do have a couple of interesting names on the entry list. I'll just scan through that quickly. For the 12 Hours of Silverstone, as you said, as I've said, I've already read out the 4 prototypes we're going to have, the 2 P2s and the 2 CN1 cars. Of course, in the P2s we have the standard names of Steve Tandy, Mike Simpson, John Corbett, Neil Muston. Those drivers with a few added in as well. The CM1 class, all the drivers you'd expect, Regis Treff, so forth. Then we also have the GT field, Ram Racing turning up with Raymond Voss and Tom Onslow Colt. That should be a good one. Scuderia Praha there, their normal lineup, Pizarro, Crowell, Melicelli. IDEX Sport Racing, Porsche Racing, Robert Lucas there. Rofco Racing, they're all going to be here as usual. The Herberth Motorsport Porsche, the almost invincible Herberth Motorsport Porsche with Daniel Alleman, Ralph Bond, Robert Renard and Alfred Renard. That is my pick for the win of the A6 Pro class. GRT Grasser, Penta Celebrate. Interestingly, another team I've never heard of, Red River Sport, with FF Corsa. Of course, I've heard of FF Corsa. They have Ivor Dunbar, Bonamy Grimes, and Johnny Molan. So that's a strong lineup there in the AM class. Car Collection Motorsport have turned up with a couple of Audis. Then you've got Attempter Racing, who of course is a Blancpain team. Pro Sport Performance with a couple of Porsche drivers, interestingly. Charles Putman, Charles Espenlaub and Joe Foster. We're used to seeing them in the 991 class. There's another GRT Grasser Racing Team car, so Penta's missing out by not being here, obviously. We've got 2 SPX cars, an Audi R8 LMS GT and a Speed Lover Porsche 991. Jamie Stanley in the Fox Motorsport Audi, interestingly, and Jamie Stanley I've seen has gone very well at Silverstone in the past. I remember him entering the AM class of the International GT Open back in 2016 when I went to see that round at Silverstone, and he put it on pole for race 2, and the organisers basically went, yeah, you're not staying in the AM class. But yeah, he obviously goes well at Silverstone. Remember, he was in the field at the same time as drivers like. You
can't say remember. I don't remember. I don't even know who that guy is.
Okay, well, Jamie Stanley, he's a quick one. But he was in the field at the same time as drivers like Combe Ledegar, people like that, and he put it on pole. Yes, Ledegar wasn't actually qualifying his car at the time because in the GT Open you have to give it over to your AM driver to qualify for one of the races, but you get the picture. He did well. Then you've got a 991 class Porsche Lorient, IDEX Sport, and Track Club turning up. A couple of interesting names in that as well. Stuart Ratcliffe, a couple of other guys as well, Pascal Giblon. But that is more or less the field for the 12-hour. And then you go to the headline event, the 24-hour, which is going to be somewhat ruined by the addition of the prototypes going past as well.
Well, only for the first 7 hours.
For the first 7 hours, yeah.
Which is an odd number to split, yeah.
And for the first time, we have a Hyundai i30 TCR. Now, this Hyundai, I don't know if it's actually homologated yet. I remember it was racing in the
The
TCR
Hyundai
Championship.
i30 and TCR is homologated.
Good. Because I remember seeing it racing in the International TCR Championship last year for 2 rounds. And Gabriele Tarquini absolutely bossed it because the car wasn't homologated yet. It was too quick. And yeah, they were non-championship, non-point scoring entries, but still, it was a bit of a spoil sport seeing Tarquini running away with that in a car that obviously wasn't TCR spec. But anyway, we also have last year's winners, Team Blöckermollen, with Sebastian Blöckermollen, Melvin de Groot, Rob Smith, and Rennie Steenmetz. That's certainly one to look out for in the TCR class. Holmgard Motorsport, they've got a few good drivers. Accelerate Motorsport with their good old drivers TBA, and TBA.
Busy drivers, that guy.
Bonk Motorsport also has 4 TBAs racing for him, so the TBAs obviously coming out in force here with the Audis especially. Another Seat, LMS Racing by Bas Kooten Racing, Antti-Buri, Kari-Pekka Laaksonen and Olli Kangas. That's a good one. Pick that for a high position. Motorsport Development, Kawasaki Racing by Bas Kooten Racing, so forth. Another Bas Kooten Racing, NKPP, Guiche Bessem, Harry Hilders, that's a good one. JM Littman, interestingly, in the other Bas Kooten Racing car, the 155. JW Bird Motorsport, Red Camel Jordans.nl, Evo Brokers, Rick Brokers, Konstantin Skalko. And that's the TCR
really?
class. So,
Rick Broker.
Yeah, Rick
I
Brokers.
thought it would have been in a Lamborghini.
Well, people keep saying this, but Rick Brokers has actually been driving the Red Camel Jordan car for quite a while in the 24-hour series. He did basically the whole of the last season alongside his...
well, I know he has, but wasn't he in the Lamborghini? Was he in the TCR car?
Was he?
I seem to remember him being in the Lamborghini.
I can check the 24-hour of Dubai entry list.
Possible.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to.
Control F, Rick.
Penta would know.
Yeah, Rick Brokers, GRT Grasser.
Okay. I thought so.
Right. Anyway.
Because he's a Lamborghini driver.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. But no, he's in the TCR car.
Are there any Hondas entered? Or no?
No, there is one in the A3 class, but none in the TCR class, no.
Right. That's it.
Sadly, only 2 SP3 cars here this weekend, and they're both in the same class.
They're both Genetta, so they'll both crash.
Yes, and those are CWS Engineering ones, Colin White, Jason Baker. And, well, it's a shame to see such a small SP3 class after they really kind of almost took the headlines last year. A lot of people didn't like them doing that, but I actually like their addition. I like the kind of SP3 TCR battle that we saw at many of the rounds, especially Barcelona. But only 2 of them turning up, and they're both in the same team, so they're guaranteed a class win, which I always hate. Of course.
Why are they SP3 cars? Aren't they?
What's that?
The Genettas, aren't those? How are those touring cars?
Well, the SP3 class was a class last year as well. They're not technically touring cars, but they're there anyway.
Right. Okay.
Then moving down to the final class of the grid, we have A3, which has actually merged with Cup 1. So there weren't enough Cup 1 entries, they've merged it with A3. And I like that, because I don't see why there were 2 separate classes there in the first place, seeing as they're pretty much equal on pace. But anyway, they've merged those fields. Core Oizer Racing has turned up with a BMW M3. That's Core Oizer and Ina Thorson. That will be one to look out for. Synchro Motorsport, always a good team, with a Honda, the Honda I was talking about. Alan James, Daniel Wheeler, Matt Neal. That's a great car. I can't wait to see that one racing. And then you have the 2 BMW Cup cars turning up. One by Hofer Racing, powered by Bonk Motorsport. And another with Duo Racing. An all-British lineup in the Duo Racing car, despite it being a Luxembourgian team. I don't know if Luxembourgian is the correct word for that, but anyway.
I don't think that Luxembourgian is the correct thing.
It is now. Then we have the Mini that I was talking about, the Accelerate Motorsport Mini. No drivers have been confirmed for that yet, but I do hope it turns up, because I do like the Mini John Cooper Works racing car, the F56. I watched the entire mini UK Racing Championship last year, and that was a great one to watch. Very entertaining. And then finally, our final entry is the PDM Motorsport BMW Z3 M Coupe with Dimitri Kloiskens, Maxence van der Kerkhoven, Pierre de Lanchier, and a name which I really find quite funny, Peter Piper. Now,
oh, you find that one funny, do you?
I'll tell you why. It's because there's an old tongue twister that my gran likes to recite about Peter Piper who picked a peck of pickled peppers. And if Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? But
well, clearly you can't say it anyway, so...
this Peter Piper spelt P-U-Y-P in the Piper, so it's more like a Piper, really. But you
might have found out his name. It is Piper, perhaps.
Peter Piper. I'm still going to call him Peter Piper because, you know, the nursery rhyme. But anyway, that is the Silverstone 24-hour/12-hour entry list, and I can't wait to see how it pans out. I'm going to be there for pretty much the whole of the Saturday, meeting a few interesting faces as well. I'm, of course, for the 24-hour series, I normally provide updates for Orange Bag Media. I'm going to be meeting some of those guys for the first time, so that'll be good. And possibly...
For who?
Orange Bag Media, they do the cameras for the 24-hour series.
Right.
And also... Jake Sanson, who is my boss at Downforce, is possibly going to be there, and if he is, it'll be good to see him for the first time. So I'm looking forward to this.
Well, sounds like interesting, and you give us an update.
I will certainly give an update when I've been. Yes.
Yes, and moving along now to Geneva news. So, if Rob is in a quiet place, I'd like him...
I feel the need to prove myself, because Penta has just pointed out that I failed at that tongue twister and the names as well, and I'm normally quite good at this, so... But
okay,
anyway.
go on then.
Okay. My uncle is Welsh, and he lives in a town with quite a famous name. You'll know where this is going if you've been to Wales, or if you know a bit about Wales.
God, here we go.
It's the longest place name in Europe. He lives in a place called Llanfa Porgwyngyth Gogerydd Cwyntrobydd Llantysilio Gogogoch. There you go.
Alright, fair enough. You've redeemed yourself.
Good. Right, done that. Anyway.
What I do? Shit.
So is there any more racing to catch up on, or is there or do we go to the news stories now?
Yes, I was going to go to Geneva news. So if Rob is in a quiet place, start talking. No idea if he can still hear me.
Rob,
Rob, speak.
Thou?
Oh well, I'll cover the Geneva news without him.
Okay.
We had the interesting debut of the, well, because pretty much a car, really. I don't know if you've seen it, Josh, but it was the unveiling of the Toyota GR Supra Racing concept.
I honestly couldn't tell what you said apart from Toyota there. You were cutting out a bit for me there. I hope you're not cutting out on the stream as well.
No, it's fine. What
Right, so
I said was
some sort of Toyota. What Toyota is it?
Yeah, it was the Toyota. Hang on, the Toyota GR Supra Racing concept.
Toyota GR Supra Racing concept. Can you find a picture
Supra.
of that so I can put that?
Yeah, I will. I'll give it. Supra
Okay.
Racing concept. It was the debut of the new Supra. Go picture there.
Oh wow.
And it's basically a GTE car.
Okay, well I'm just getting this up on the stream now. It doesn't look like a GTE car. It looks kind of like a smaller cup racing car from what I can see. But
I think it's better suited to GT3, but that is the...
Right, well you'll be seeing the Formula E car briefly while I just sort that
Right.
picture out. This is the problem with not sorting out all of the pictures before it starts, but I hadn't heard of the Toyota Supra, so... Well, of course I'd heard of the Toyota Supra, but not this one. Where is it? There it is.
It's the race version. Well, the racing version. Supposed racing version.
It's an interesting looking thing. It looks like it has a very small wheelbase compared to most GT3 cars. I can imagine it's probably not the most powerful from what I can see. This is all based on looks.
Well, we don't know what's powering. They haven't released any specs on the road car.
Right. Oh, so have they not released this road car yet?
No. This is the Supra that they keep teasing, but don't release any specs on.
Okay, so is this a GT3 car? What series? What
It
category is it going to race in?
This is supposedly a GTE car,
GTE.
and that's what it was designed to. Because if you look at the side, it has leader lights.
Right.
And the aero is very much... However, the car isn't actually racing, because the road car hasn't been... what's the word? Debuted yet?
Hasn't been released yet, I'd say.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But this gives you a peek into what the Supra will look like. But that was big news that came out of Geneva, other than the McLaren.
Which McLaren's this?
The Senna, but
the Senna,
not just the Senna, the GTR Senna.
Yeah, I've seen the Senna.
That has a front splitter the size of, well, coffee table.
I actually don't like the way it's called the Senna. I think that sounds like a very precocious name, but I've been calling everything precocious today, so...
Yes, you have. It's your favorite.
Yeah. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, it'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yes. While he teases for time, while I tell him to put a picture on the screen. Yes, the McLaren Senna GTR was debuted, which was not expected, because everyone was expecting a potential GTE announcement from McLaren instead of this.
Well, there you go. So, is this a GT3 or?
No, the GTR, which isn't compliant to any race series.
Okay, so it's just a track day car, basically, one of those like
yes,
P1 GTRs.
It's a hyper P1 GTR thing. Yeah, it's a track day toy for rich, and only 75 are. But it's very much potentially a GT car, potentially an LMP1 car. Who knows?
Wow.
All I know is everyone was expecting a GT announcement, and it never happened. But yeah, that was also another. The Valkyrie happened.
Great. I like the sound of the Valkyrie.
You know, the Aston Martin, Red Bull, whatever.
Yeah, the Aston Martin thing, yeah.
That looks very much like an LMP1 car, actually.
Now, Penta brings up something interesting in the YouTube chat, the Alpine 110 GT4, which I hadn't heard of. Now, I was speaking to my brother the other day about the Alpine, because there is actually going to be an Alpine Racing Series this year, and I don't know what car they're going to be using for that, whether it will be the Alpine 110 GT4.
Yes, well, there's only one car for Alpine, the A110.
I know it'll be the Alpine 110 well, the 110, but I don't know if they're going to create a new version of it or whether they'll use the GT4. It'll be interesting. But
the road car is
it's not
the one make racer. The one make racer is different. I think the difference between the road car, not the road. I keep saying road car. The difference between the one make car, there we go, and the GT4 car is. I think the GT4 car is more downforce. I think that might be the only difference.
Wow, okay.
Because I don't remember the one make car having a wing or a splitter on it. Yeah, I think that might be. But the GT4 car...
Okay, well you should be seeing that now on the stream.
Yep, I saw it right now.
Good.
That. A110 sports car has the same 1.8 liter 4-cylinder engine. It will be available in 2019. Fully GT4 compliant. The A110 Cup can be upgraded to GT4 specification. So it's not quite the same car, but nearly.
Okay. So it's not a GT4, but this A110 Cup is what they're going to be racing in the new Alpine Racing Series, right?
Yes, but if
Right.
you have one, you can upgrade it. Apparently.
You know, I've always been a big fan of the Renault series. Of course, they originally had the Megane Trophy, the Eurocup Megane Trophy, and I saw that at Donington, at Silverstone, all over England several times, and I loved that. I'm even racing those cars now in a simulator racing series. I just absolutely love them. And then, of course, that series folded in 2013, I believe, and for 2015, they came up with the Renault RS01 trophy, the Renault Sport Trophy they called it, and that was just as good. Just brilliant car. I know people don't like the RS01 when it runs in GT3 competitions, but as a single make car, it was just everything you could have wanted. Amazing sound as well. Really popped as it braked.
Pensa has just provided me a cup car pic.
Good. Okay, I'll update that on the stream as well.
And it appears I was correct. It is minus down.
Yeah,
it's minus wing and splitter.
It appears to be the same car, but without a wing. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. So, bolt on a wing, it's a GT. Well done.
There you go.
Wonder how much that wing
is on stream. Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping to pop down for one of the days that the International GT Open is going to be at Silverstone this year, and they're going to have the Alpine Racing Series as a support category. So,
interesting.
Might well be seeing
interesting note from the. They state that the car is eligible for the 2019 Spa 24 hours.
Really?
So that would indicate that GT4 cars will be opening or will be racing at Spa in 2019.
Well, not necessarily, because if you remember, they've already got one extra class for Porsche Cup cars at the Spa 24 hours. So I wonder whether they're going to be creating a brand new one specifically. For
never mind. I just got my hopes up.
Oh, what's happening?
SRO has indicated that the 2019 race will be GT3 only.
Okay.
So never mind.
So does that mean the Alpine is still going to be there, but in a different class, or? Because they say it's GT3 only now, and they still have those Porsche Cup cars going around.
Sorry, say again?
I said they say it's GT3 only now, and they still have those Porsche Cup cars going around. So is it still?
Well, that was Group N. I assume that can, but really the only reason why they had Group N was for the RSO.
Okay.
But that never ran, so Porsche Cup cars filled its spot.
Okay.
Yeah. The other news matter, other than the LP, the Valkyrie, that one did that one. Did the McLaren? Oh yeah, the Rebellion.
Yeah, right. Rebellion. Find me a picture of that.
The Rebellion that I have just seen right now, and is basically a bigger version of a Orica 07 LMP. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, that's basically just an Orica 07 with some LMP.
That does look very much like an Orica 07.
The differences being that it is a bigger Gibson engine and high downforce LMP body kit, but it's basically an Orica.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah. Some interesting headlight treatment.
Yeah, that is interesting. It looks like only a bit of the headlights actually work.
It's sadly no longer a Porsche 908 headlight.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, the only bit that's the Peugeots that survived was the headlights on the Rebellion.
And as Casio has just pointed out, they've got a fidget spinner on the front.
That is always their logo. I think fidget spinners copied their logo. Fairness.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That was always the Rebellion logo. Also, with the announcement, they confirmed they will run on Michelin tires, I believe, because that's what they have in the render. They have they'll be running on Michelin's as opposed to Dunlops. And their final driver for the LMP drive, Ryan Cullen from Porsche Mobile One Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East fame.
Yeah, good old Ryan Cullen.
So he rounds up Harrison Newey and Thomas Laurent lineup there. The
Harrison
LMS.
Newey's in the LMP1 car.
No, the ELMS LMP2 drive.
Okay. I still thought you were talking about the Rebellion LMP1.
No, it was part of their announcement there. But they'll have an LMP car entered by Algarve Pro with Thomas Laurent, Harrison Newey, and Ryan Cullen.
Good.
That fills that. Other news coming out of the WE was Dragon Speed has announced that Pietro Fittipaldi will stand in for Renger van de Zande at Spa.
Good.
And SMG Racing will add Stefan Sarrazin, PR1, for the entire series. So he leaves Toyota.
Good. Okay.
Yes. And also, Frederic Sauce, the star of the Le Mans 24 Hours, 16? 7. No, not 7. 16. Yeah, 16. The quadriplegic driver who is running the specially modified Oak Morgan has been awarded French Ordre National du Mérite and has become a Chevalier de l'Ordre National du Mérite, which is the second highest honor in France after the Légion d'honneur. And his academy is also on track to season, which is, for those that don't know, his academy goal is to elevate drivers' ability to compete at Le Mans events. But after his team this season, VDV, he will then compete 2 seasons in the Michelin Le Mans Cup before being granted an auto entry for the 2020 24 Hours of Le Mans ACO.
Okay, good. I didn't hear much of that. You are cutting out a little bit, but something to
great.
do with Le Mans. I think that was probably more understandable on the stream than it was to me. Slightly.
I hope so. I really hope so. Oh dear.
It's just because I'm trying to type and listen at the same time, and with that cutting out as well, it's difficult to react to. But you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Did anything else come out of Geneva then?
No, that was the Geneva news, as far as I had written down. What else?
Right, well, there is a bit of news that I've been really happy about recently. A few days ago, I tweeted how disappointed I was that Jamie Caroline, of course, the British F4 champion who dominated last season, had announced that he didn't, basically was having to quit motorsport due to lack of funds, lack of money, lack of everything that I lacked, and didn't become a racing driver as a result of. But luckily, and I say this very happily, he has found a seat with a USF 2000 team for the upcoming St. Petersburg round, and he will be doing the full season there, which will be interesting because he hasn't tested the car at all. So St. Petersburg will be the first time he has driven the car, but you know, it's Jamie Caroline. He'll do it. He'll do it well. I can't wait to see what he can do this year.
What team?
Good question. I was just trying to look that up actually, but I don't know many USF 2000 teams anyway, so I this might not mean much to me. Oh, here we go. BN Racing. Have you heard of BN Racing?
BN.
BN. NB spelt backwards.
Must admit, I've never heard of that.
Okay, well that's who he's racing for this season.
So, interesting to see how he does. Because I've never heard of that team.
Okay.
Yeah, but you do segue into a nice point, which is that IndyCars this weekend. The season opener, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. And the new AeroKit debut.
Yes.
Which you are not a fan of.
No, I still think... I think it's growing on me slightly. I still think it looks too simple. I know, I'm so fussy with racing cars. The Formula E car, I said, looks too complicated. The Indy car looks too simple. Yeah, I know. But still, I do think that as a single-seater, it should look more modern than it does, and I know they're trying to go back to their kart roots, the times that everyone likes and sees as the golden era, much like F1 did, interestingly, making the cars wider and so forth, and I did like that with Formula 1, but seeing as I wasn't around in the kart days, I think that's mostly the problem. I've never seen cars like that before, and I just think they look a bit like go-karts.
Looks like a fun go-kart. If that's the case.
If go-karts look like that, I would go karting so much more often. But you know,
no news out of that. Everyone got confirmed, so that's happening. USF 2000, like you said, Pro Mazda, Elite. Yeah, full weekend for. Oh, PWC as well.
Ah, yeah, Pirelli World Challenge. Yeah.
Yes. The debut of the Callaway Corvette on North American soil.
Jolly good. I like the Callaway Corvette.
Well, everyone
seems to be a very
back at its homeland.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But
I believe that's all the news for this week, unless you have any more. Next week I won't be in the podcast like I am now. In fact, I'm only going to be doing it every other week from now on. But I will be hopefully recording a piece of audio to be played at the start or the end of next week's podcast. OBS allows you to do that, so that will be fine. I'm not sure of what to name that segment. Something like Jones's Corner or Joshua's Corner, you know, the kind of thing. But anyway, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before the end of the podcast?
No, I'm just looking at calendar here. USF 2000. Pro Mazda, Indy Lights, PWC, like I mentioned, the IndyCar on Sunday, and the NASCAR. Other than that, that's what I have.
Bit more F1 testing as well, but we'll see what happens from that.
That's this week, not over.
What's that?
I said that was this week, not on the weekend.
There's a bit more now. There's a bit more this week. So
yeah, so I said during the week.
We can still talk about that in the next podcast because there'll be more.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, but with the calendars said, I apologize for the technical issue. If they were having any, which I assume there were. Yeah, we'll end. So, hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, see you in a week's time.